What I hadn't seen, though, before Saturday was racing here without fans and a celebration in Victory Lane without any champagne.
For him to come in and say that there was a lot of work to be done is a bunch of trash.
Whoa. Former Lions quarterback Dan Orlovsky not holding back on the state of the team. It was 2-on-2 basketball, where you can break all the rules and the law of gravity. Back to Valentine's Day talk. If you hadn't figured out what to do yet with your date, you lovebirds could check out the Michigan basketball team. But back in 1989, they were three single guys trying to survive, working for the legendary Judd Heathcote. The feeling after Wednesday's win over Ball State was a much more positive one compared to Sunday's win over Oakland. We wanted to spend a lot of money on like a big party, streamer, stuff like that. My daughter's birthday was last week. I spent all the money on that, so all we could do was just one of those. But we got you cookies, so, I mean, welcome back, man. You know what's at stake here? An extra game means records are going to be broken. How exciting is that going to be down the stretch of the season? First quarter, his Golden Gophers led 7-0, but then Zach Charbonnet hit the turbo button for U of M. The home opener is always a treat, which is why it was a bummer fans couldn't be there this year. The stands inside Spartan Stadium are empty, and that is the way they are going to be all season. I do have them beating UCLA, but after that, boom, right there, BYU takes them down. It doesn't matter, no one can recall its exact location.
I don't remember the address.
Or that some of the details have been lost through time.
All I know is it was very close to the Burger King.
What matters is that each man can remember how one home helped make them the leaders they are today.
I think it shaped all of us because none of us were making any money. You know, the only reason we weren't married is we didn't have enough money to take girls out on a date.
This was the life of three up-and-coming Michigan State coaches in the late 1980s. Tom Izzo, Tom Crean, and Jim Boylan are big time now, but back in 1989, they were three single guys trying to survive, working for the legendary Judd Heathcote and trying to save a buck by rooming together in a three-bedroom house in Hazlitt.
But my room was good. It was certainly the best investment you could possibly make because Tom charged Jim Boylan and myself $200 a month to live with him.
Izzo owned the house.
I was a slumlord.
So he got to make the rules.
One of my favorite things about Tom Izzo is he hasn't changed a bit.
And just as his current players at Michigan State would attest, Izzo ran a tight ship. Crean and Boylan were expected to chip in with the chores and keep things clean, a skill Crean admits wasn't his strongest.
I'm sure I didn't carry my weight like Jim and Tom did, but fortunately they never kicked me out.
It took a little bit of digging, but we found it. Right at the end of the block, the house, the basketball laboratory, and the place where for 1 year, three men worked nonstop to perfect their craft and move closer toward their dreams.
It was great because we worked all day together. We stayed at the office, went home to sleep, and that was about it.
For each future head coach, there was no escaping basketball. And that was exactly the way they liked it. Because not only were they learning on the job, they were also learning from each other.
I learned from Tom Izzo that, you got to try to push your guys to a place they can't take themselves. And you do that by having a relationship with them first.
Inevitably, the trio went their separate ways. But while their careers have taken them in different places, they remain close, still connected by this house that in just a short time became their home.
You think about that group, Tom Crane's been to a Final Four. I've been to a Final Four. Jimmy's, been a part of 2 world championships and a head coach in the NBA. I'd say that there was pretty good water in that, in those places we lived.
Mike Lacett, 13 on Your Side Sports.
We're never alone.
It's the multi-million-dollar Nike commercial that had the world buzzing.
The first time we saw it just gives you chills.
An ad with the most famous athletes in the world.
We have a responsibility
to make this world a better place.
And some amazing effects.
We'll go farther.
And then just when the commercial couldn't get any more exciting, one Muskegon family reached the apex of their fame.
Just from a basement, foam ball tennis to a Nike commercial.
The rise to stardom for 9-year-old Reed and his 14-year-old brother Drew came shortly after the pandemic began. With nowhere to go and nothing to do, the two began playing tennis in their basement.
We can come up really mad at each other.
The competition was so fierce it caught the attention of their mom, Tracy, who instead of stopping the match, filmed it and put it on Twitter.
We woke up to the sound of my mom's phone dinging because people were liking our tweet.
In just a matter of days, the video caught fire. NBC Sports reached out, as did Fox and their announcer Joe Buck.
Now moving toward the net. Good night.
After a few weeks, Nike wanted the clip, but there was a catch.
They were only going to use Reed.
But while Mom took the news hard, Big Brother amazingly didn't.
At first I was a little bit like, oh, it's disappointing just because it's like such a cool opportunity. But then it's like, man, it's so cool like that he got to be in it.
Nike didn't say how the footage would be used. And they definitely didn't explain that through split-screen TV magic, Reed would match up with someone who lives in Italy.
We'll find a way.
They nailed it. It looks fluid. I'm getting calls, texts like, I just saw Reed in a commercial on the Lakers game.
But rather than bask in his moment of individual glory, Reed never forgot that it couldn't have happened without Drew.
Technically, it was our video, not mine.
We'll come together for change.
Sure, Nike can spend a lot of money promoting a message,
I love him.
but that message is priceless. Mike Lacett, 13 on Your Side Sports.
Good. Finish KI.
By his own account, Drive head coach Donnie Tyndall lives a clean lifestyle.
No, I'm not a guy that goes out. I'm not a partier. I'm not a drinker. I'm not a smoker. Going down and coming back.
Still, that doesn't mean he won't indulge every once in a while.
I think I'm past the point of no return.
Okay, a little more than once in a while.
Again, back to your original question, that might be considered an addiction.
Tyndall's addiction is shoes. And it started at the age of 15 when his mom bought him his first pair of Nikes.
It just became a source of pride, what type of shoes you were hooping in.
From that moment on, the 49-year-old West Michigan native was hooked.
His dad and I talked about it a little bit, and then we thought, no, we're not going to say anything because it is a passion.
These are a little bit older.
Yeah, like Tyndall would have listened anyway. Over the years, he's bought it all, from Chuck Taylor's and Charles Barkley's to Jordan's, Kobe's, and KD's.
The problem is every time I say, okay, I'm done buying them, 2 months later something comes out and you see them at Foot Locker finish line and you're like, all right, one more pair, I'm good.
And one more pair has turned into 700 pairs. Tyndall keeps half in storage and the other half at his one-bedroom apartment in Grand Rapids. Some he wears, some he doesn't, but all are organized to a T.
I'm pretty type A about it, and trust me when I tell you if someone came in and took a pair or moved them, I'd dang sure know about it.
Tyndall says he spent close to $70,000 in shoes over the years. He knows that sounds crazy, but he says it's all been worth it in the name of style.
So again, it's just one of those deals you feel like you have to have them, and I can't really explain why other than it was just like, man, those are sweet, I gotta get them.
Mike Lacett, 13 on Your Side Sports. Well, how about that? Turns out the Lions did have some fight left in them after all. Former head coach Matt Patricia couldn't bring it out of him during his final two-game losing streak, but in his first game in charge, interim leader Darrell Bevell got the team going again. The 50-year-old making his head coaching debut against the Bears in Chicago. He's going to remember it forever. Under 3 to go, Detroit down 10. Matthew Stafford finds Marvin Jones for the 25-yard touchdown. Stafford 402 yards passing, 3 scores. Lions down only 3. Under 2 to play. The defense coming through in the clutch. Mitchell Trubisky stripped of the football, and the Lions have it at the Bears 7. They then go to the ground attack. Adrian Peterson from 5 yards out. Give him a touchdown. With a minute 37 left to go, Detroit has its first lead at 34-30. Once again, their defense would need a stop, and once again, they would come through from the Lions' 20. Bears on 4th and 1. They can't get that extra yard. Bevell is a winner in his debut as the Lions take it 34-30.
I believe in these guys.
Hey, something to celebrate. Lions 5-7 now on the season. Next week, they are home for the Packers. All right, on to college basketball. Western Michigan learned the hard way why Tom Izzo is so excited to get Joey Hauser on his Spartans team this year. It turns out the junior transfer from Marquette is just plain deadly from downtown. Head to East Lansing, where Izzo had a front row seat to a shooting exhibition from his forward. Second half, MSU up 4. Hauser letting it fly. He was upset going into the game, having shot just 3 of 13 on threes. Safe to say he's back on track. Later in the half, another one. That was his 5th three of the game. His teammates were loving it, but Hauser wasn't done. Just over a minute later, it's a heat check from just inside half court, and oh my, a career high 6 threes. He finished with a career high 24 points. Spartans take it 79-61.
I think.
What an effort. The 8th-ranked Spartans 5-0 now this season. All right, more basketball. Michigan home for Central Florida. The Wolverines struggling early, so Juwan Howard turned to his bench, and they responded big time. First half off the miss. Hunter Dickinson there to clean up the mess. The freshman scored 14. U of M up 4 at the break. Second half, 6-man Shondi Brown caught fire. The Wake Forest transfer went on an 8-0 run by himself, and Michigan never looked back. Brown finished with 18. The Wolverines take it 80-58. They're now 4-0 this year. And that's sports. Elena back with your final forecast after this. So in the grand scheme of things, Michigan losing in the Big Ten semifinals isn't that big of a deal. They're still going to the NCAA tournament, and they're still going to get a good seed. But here's what is a big deal. Isaiah Livers is out, possibly for good. We learned this just before U of M tipped off with Ohio State. Livers had been dealing with a nagging foot injury for weeks. Turns out it was a stress fracture. Wolverines definitely could have used him against the Buckeyes. They found themselves in big trouble late in the second half out in Indy with OSU up 9. Grand Rapids native Dwayne Washington going in for the kill. Game high 24. Buckeyes led by 11 with just over 3 to go. Amazingly, though, U of M would recover. Shondi Brown from straight away. This is confidence right here. Gets the 3 to go down after a 7-0 run. Suddenly, Michigan was down just a point. And look, there's Livers. He's loving it, but still work to do. After an Ohio State turnover, the Wolverines get it back with a chance to win. It's Mike Smith. He wants to be the hero. Oh, but he cannot be the hero. Michigan loses 68-67. A tough loss, a tough day for the program, but Juwan Howard sees a lot of positives.
We didn't shoot the ball extremely well.
I guess it's the kind of thing that can only make you stronger. Michigan will find out its tournament fate when the selection show starts at 6 o'clock tomorrow. 10 days ago, the Grand Rapids Griffins scored 9 times against the Rockford Ice Hogs. Tonight, goals were a bit tougher to come by. Head to Van Andel, where for the first time this season, we had live fans. It was a pandemic sellout. 750 were on hand. Griffins tried their hardest to give them something to cheer about. 43 shots on goal, but they only managed to score once. Kyle Criscolo at last putting it in. It was 1-0 Grand Rapids early in the third. Rockford would later tie it up, so we would play into overtime. That's where the Griffins met their demise. Dylan McLaughlin scoring on the 2-on-1 breakaway. 2-1 would also be your final. The loss snaps the Griffins' 2-game win streak. And that's sports. Michael Barron's coming back with your final forecast next.